BBC News, 9th of May 2023, Cheng Lei spent a year behind bars in China for an unspecified offence. According to Nick Coyle, 1,000 days is an absurdly long time to be imprisoned. He refers to his co-worker, Australian journalist Cheng Lei, who is still detained in China. She has not yet received a sentence, and the specifics of the charges against her remain a secret. Mr. Coyle said he still doesn't know what Ms. Cheng is meant to have done to merit this punishment, just like her other friends and family members. He tells the BBC he would appeal to the appropriate authorities in China to find a swift solution to this terrible situation. On August 13, 2020, Cheng Lei was a business reporter for the government-run English-language television network CGTN in China. She was abruptly detained by state security personnel and eventually charged with illegally supplying state secrets abroad. Her first 6 months were spent in solitary confinement, in stressful conditions, and without access to a lawyer while being questioned. She has been detained among other convicts ever since. Her trial was held in secret in March of last year. Even Graham Fletcher, the Australian ambassador to China, was turned away. But her punishment has been repeatedly delayed. The Beijing Second Intermediate People's Court, where her trial was placed, did not return calls from the BBC. The former CEO of the China-Australia Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Coyle, has since left Beijing but is still campaigning from abroad for her release. When a Chinese ambassador to Australia, Xiao Qian, expressed hope that a solution will come as soon as possible in January, Mr. Coyle says he took him at his word. "We've been waiting for 5 months." Yang Hengchen, another Australian detained on state secrets allegations, had similarly delayed his sentencing. What might be called a state secret in China is a comprehensive concept that effectively means anything the government wants it to be. Detaining foreigners for protracted periods under a murky, party-controlled legal system is proving difficult for a nation trying to entice foreign business investment back to its shores following years of extraordinarily harsh COVID lockdown restrictions. Between 2018 and 2021, Canadians Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor were detained as hostages in retaliation for Meng Wanzhou, the top financial officer of Huawei, being sought for extradition. After the U.S.'s request for her extradition was withdrawn, they were released shortly after. However, there is still pressure on international businesses. A Japanese pharmaceutical firm executive seized 6 weeks ago, and according to China's foreign ministry, he was accused of engaging in espionage activities. International business research organizations have also been searched here in recent weeks. While many prospective foreign investors consider the dangers of staying in China, they also believe they cannot ignore the evident allure of the nation's sizable domestic market. China and Australia have had a difficult few years. Australian wine, barley, and lobsters were all subject to sanctions from Beijing. The tensions have been high in this nation where more than 5% of people can trace their ancestry to China. In the middle of all this conflict, Cheng Lei's situation has received much attention. Regarding detention in China, foreign passport holders of Chinese heritage have historically been treated differently from other foreigners, to put it simply, far more strictly. The Chinese authorities may have believed that because Cheng Lei is of Chinese ancestry, Australians would be less worried about her, but this has not been the case. Her kids were 9 and 11 when she was picked up. It has caused a stir in Australia. Beyond that, they haven't been able to visit their mother all this time. According to Nick Coyle, fair-minded Australians, including those in business, politics, and the general public, disagree with the present quo. China's foreign ministry has tried to ease international concerns about the situation. Spokesman Wang Wenbin stated at a routine press conference, China's judicial authorities have handled the case in accordance with the law, fully protecting Cheng Lei's legal rights. He stated that the verdict would be rendered in due course on the anniversary of her incarceration. But a year after her covert trial, no judgment has been generated. In China, being accused of a crime almost always results in defeat. Officially, conviction rates are close to 100%. To limit the punishment the accused might receive in these circumstances, attorneys and supporters make every effort. Their governments try to negotiate with their Chinese counterparts to gain the release of their citizens when it comes to foreigners. Deals may occasionally be involved. To formalise a recent warming of relations, the Chinese administration hopes that Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will visit Beijing later this year. The Australian side can use the cases involving Cheng Lei and Yang Hangjin as negotiating leverage to open the door for this visit. The Australian government claims to have brought up their cases frequently. In a television interview last week, Mr. Albanese stated that our position on China has been to engage constructively but to continue to put forward that the impediments to trade should be removed, to say very directly to President Tsai that Australians like Cheng Lei need to be given proper justice, and that they're not receiving. Mr. Albanese was in London for the coronation at the time. He specifically said Xi Jinping, which was heard in Beijing. Throughout her career, Cheng Lei had worked to forge links between the nation of her birth and where her family had relocated. She would not have wanted her case to widen the gap between China and Australia. One thing appears to stand out in the few words she can send via monthly half-hour visits by Australian diplomats: how much she misses her kids, and it hurts her to be apart from them. Nick Coyle claims that her children, now 11 and 14, have been trying their best to grow up in Australia without their mother, but I hope a solution to all this can be found urgently for Lei and her kids' sake.